Hi, I'm Kelsey from Crafting for Weeks, and today I'm going to be showing you how to add a zipper and a lining to a crochet project. I'm going to be going over ways to do this with a sewing machine and without. So first of all, here's some of the basics of what you'll need. This right here is my crochet project. It is a clutch that I have done, and you're going to need a measuring tape, some scissors, some cotton fabric for lining, a zipper. You'll want this zipper to be a little bit bigger than your project. And this is just an all-purpose zipper. You can find these at most of your local craft stores. You'll also want some coordinating thread. I chose thread that's going to match the top section of my clutch. And you'll need some scissors to cut your fabric. And then depending on whether you're using a sewing machine or fabric glue, you'll need those things as well. Okay, so we're going to start by measuring your project. This one is 11 inches wide. This measurement is going to tell us how wide to cut our cotton fabric. We're going to want to go an inch wider than this measurement. And then we're going to measure how tall our project is. This one is just about 6.5 to 7 inches. We're going to want to measure an inch longer than that as well when we cut into our cotton fabric. Okay, so let me grab my fabric here. This is just a basic quilter's cotton. You can find this at most of your local fabric or craft stores. I'm going to fold this in half because I want to use this bottom edge, this selvage, and this is so that I don't have to sew a seam across the bottom because I can just use this folded part right here. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to do my measurements right here and then cut across so that I have my rectangle, and this measurement is going to be based on just the fabric folded in half. So my clutch was 11 inches, so I'm looking for 12 inches across, and then this measurement is based on a folded measurement up and down, so it will be 7.5 inches up and down, but if I were to unfold this, this would be 15 inches, so just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go ahead and make this cut, and then I will move on to show you how to attach it to the zipper. Okay, so here's our cut fabric, and you can see that that center line is where we did our fold, and then this will be the inner lining of our pouch. Now we need to take this zipper and attach our lining to it. So we're going to start by laying it face down. Next we're going to take our fabric and we are going to put this fabric, we're going to put it face down as well. And we're going to attach it to the top half of our zipper. So the half of the zipper that's furthest away from you. Now whether you're sewing or gluing, you're going to want to go ahead and watch this video for the process, but I'll go over how to attach it with glue on minute 6. Okay, so you're going to just want to line the fabric up along the edge and then pin it in place so that while you're sewing it's not moving around. Now I'm pinning in the center of the zipper because I plan to just do a new zipper stop on each end and then cut off the extra. So if your zipper is much longer than your project, that's an option for you as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this fabric all pinned on here, and then I will show you where your seam is going to go. And this part of the tutorial is based on sewing, so I recommend using a sewing machine for this, but if you're comfortable hand stitching, you can also hand stitch this seam as well. Okay, so we're going to be sewing down the center of this top half of the zipper. So, So we're going to want to just try to keep our seam as close to the center all the way across as possible. Okay, so I have done this part on my sewing machine, and you can see that I went across the center of that top part of the zipper. Now if I flip it over, and if I were to open, you can see that the nice part of the fabric is on the inside of the zipper where we want it to be. It feels a little counterintuitive when you're doing it, but just trust the process. So now I'm going to open the zipper a little bit, and that's so that the zipper stops when we finish the pouch can be on the outside and the zipper portion is on the inside. So we're going to flip this over, and we want our zipper face down again. So here we have the zipper face down and slightly open. And then we're going to bring our fabric up, and we're going to go across the top half of that zipper again. So we're going to go ahead and pin that in place. Now while you're pinning, just do your best to line up these edges over here so that your pouch is not crooked. And I'm calling it a pouch because once we finish our seams here, this whole little piece of the project is going to be like a pouch, and we're going to stick this whole thing inside of our crochet project and then attach it. So if you hear me referring to this as a pouch, that's why. So I'm going to go ahead and get this last pin in here, and then we will put our second seam on the zipper. And once again, you are going to be going down the center of the top half of this zipper, and that's where your seam will go. Now I wanted to take a second to talk about the fabric glue portion. Now you can do this exact same process with fabric glue, and I tested it just so you know that it actually works. So what you're going to be doing, I'm going to repeat this same section, is you're going to just do a line of glue right where you would have been sewing your seam. So right down the center of that zipper, and then you're going to fold your fabric up, and you're going to attach it to the same place you would have sewn your seam. So this is exactly the same process. It's just instead of stitching across the center of that zipper, we're gluing it. And just for reference, I had already done the first half of this zipper just to make sure the seam would hold. So that's why I'm skipping to the second half here. But if you're using fabric glue, you're going to want to follow the whole tutorial using fabric glue in place of sewing. Okay, so back to the sewn version. So I've done the seams on both sides of the zipper here, and you can see if you were to open the pouch, it would be the right side of the fabric inside. Next, I'm going to need to sew up the sides of this little pouch so that it's closed on the inside. And when I do that, I'm going to go over the zipper right here so that there's a stop for the zipper. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side as well. You're going to want to hold the zipper closed when you pin it, and that will make the zipper stop on the opposite side. Now when I sew this, I'm going to want to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That is based on the measurements we took when we started. We added an extra inch to our total measurement, so that's a 1/2 inch on each side of this little pouch. Okay, all pinned up, I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine and sew up the seams on both sides. I want to interject a little bit here for the fabric glued side. Now if I were doing fabric glue, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to glue up the sides of this pouch. Make sure your zipper is in the center when you do this. And as you can see, once it's dry, it's pretty sturdy. You can give that a good tug and it's not going anywhere. And same with the seam here. If you don't have a sewing machine or you'd rather use fabric glue, this is a great alternative. I also wanted to have a little blurb here about doing some interfacing on the inside of the clutch. And this would be if you want a sturdier piece. I like to cut mine a little bit smaller, and this is so that it fits inside of the piece and it holds it up, but it doesn't warp the shape at all. Now here you can see where I've cut it just about a 1/4 inch smaller on each side, and when I stick it inside, it has nice firm shape, but it's not warping the edges. So this is the liner that's going to go inside of this clutch. And the liner is a little bit bigger than the clutch, but it's fine because it's loose and it's got that seam allowance inside. So I want to attach this piece to my liner, and I'm just going to stick it right in the center. Now this is a heavyweight fusible interfacing, so I can just line this up right in the center, and then I can iron it on. So once it's ironed on, it's going to stick to this liner. And I'm going to put another piece on the back side of this. I'm just going to tuck it right underneath of the edge of the zipper so that it's not interfering with the function of the zipper, and it's not changing the shape of the liner. It's just there for sturdiness. And once that's ironed on, I'm going to stick the whole piece inside of the clutch like this, and you can see how it's got a nice sturdy shape but not warping it. Okay, so back to the sewn version of this. You can see where I went over the zipper right here for the stop. I sewed a seam, half-inch seam here, half-inch seam here, went over the zipper, and this will keep the zipper from sliding off completely. And I can actually clip the ends of the zipper off at this point. So when I open my pouch, you can see right sides are facing in, which is where we want it. And then you can stick this whole liner pouch right inside of your piece. Now, if you want to do the interfacing, obviously you'll need to do that step first, but otherwise you can just go right to here. And what I'm doing is I'm just tucking this liner in as best as I can here on the camera, and I'm going to be tucking the zipper ends inside. If you had an extra long zipper, you could clip the ends and then tuck them. And I'm going to do the same here. Sometimes it's easier to clip the ends of the zipper first. And then I'm going to do my best to get this liner all situated. Once I have it all situated and down in the corners here, I'm going to pin the zipper in place. Now, if you were wanting to skip the lining but still have a zipper, you would go ahead and skip to this point of the video and just pin the zipper in place inside of the pouch. So I'm going to go ahead and get some pins here and get this lined up. I find that the easiest way to do this is to get the edge of the zipper and make sure it's tucked all the way to the edge of the pouch, and then pin that right there, and then begin to just work your way around the edge, lining the zipper up as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will skip ahead to the hand stitching portion of this video. So I have my zipper pinned in place all the way around. You can see the liners on the inside. I've actually added a little bit of heavyweight interfacing, so it's a little bit sturdier. And now I'm going to hand stitch my zipper in place. I'm going to start by threading my needle, and then I'm going to hold the thread double, and I'm going to tie a knot at the end. I like to tie a double knot just to make sure that it's not going to pull out when I do my first stitch. So I'm going to get this first knot in. I'm going to do one more here. And of course, knots are always harder to tie when you're on video. So let me get this thing situated and we will move along. Okay, phew, I think we got it. All right, so from here I'm going to take my needle and thread. I'm going to start at the edge. I like to start in the corner of the pouch. That's just personal preference. You can start anywhere. Just make sure your pins are in place. So I'm going to come underneath so that I can tuck this little tail in, which is a little bit difficult to do with this pin right here, but we can tuck it before we come back around and stitch the other side. So then I'm going to do a mattress style stitch. If you crochet, it's very similar to the mattress stitch in crochet. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of fabric from the zipper. Oh, and that's what I get for not tucking my little yarn tail in here. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of fabric from the zipper, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of yarn from the pouch, and I'm going to be working back and forth in, sorry, let me get this out of the way. I think what we'll do is just, there we go. Okay, so then I'm going to pick up a little bit of yarn from the opposite side. And this is very similar to the mattress stitch in crochet, where you're just matching up the ends, or the sides, I guess, of the stitch. So you're doing your best to stitch directly across. Let me tuck this little tail in over here with my needle while I'm at it so I don't get it caught again. Okay, so we're going to stitch directly across from here. We're going to go as close as we can to directly across, pick up a little bit of fabric from the zipper, and then pull our needle through. And then we're going to do the same thing again with the yarn side. So I'm going to keep this from tangling. I think I'm making hand stitching look harder than it is. Anyway, so we're going to come across again to the yarn side, pick up a little bit of yarn, pull our needle through. Oh boy, there we go. Pull our needle through. And then we're going to go directly across, pick up a little bit of fabric from the zipper, and pull the needle through. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing this style of stitch all the way across this side. I like this style of stitch because, for one, it's pretty secure. So like if you look right here, you can see already it's not moving around. Really, you can attach this with whatever hand stitching method you want. So once we get over to this edge, I'm going to show you how to tack this down, and then you'll just repeat this across the other side. So I will meet you at the edge. Okay, so I'm at the edge. I'm actually a little past the edge, so I'm going to just send my yarn backwards a little bit so I can show you how to tack this zipper down. So I'm going to send this back through the yarn, and then I'm going to go under the two sides of the zipper, and I'm going to pull the yarn through there, and then I'm going to come up under that yarn and out the other side so that I'm back to where I started before I went under the zipper. And I'm doing my best to tuck this under the yarn so you don't see it. But basically I'm just gonna go through under that zipper in the same spot again, and I'm gonna keep doing this a couple times so that I know that that side of the zipper is gonna stay right where I put it. I don't want it moving around at all, and I want to make sure that it has a good stop there. So I'm going to come up under the edges of the zipper, and basically I'm just tacking this down. So I'm going to do that a few times, and then once I'm done doing that, I'm just going to repeat that mattress style stitch down the other side, and then I'm going to tack down the edge that I started with as well. Now I did want to mention that you're going to want to do this step even if you don't do the mattress style stitch for your seaming and you have a zipper. You're going to want to tack this down anyway. And you can do this to start if you want. You can tack your zipper down and then go down, but either way, this is an important step in adding your zipper by hand. Okay, so once I have this nice and secure, it's not moving around, and I can stitch down any little puckers there. I'm going to do that stitch down the opposite side, right down here, and then I'm going to tack the other side of the zipper down, and then I will be done. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I did this with fabric glue. Now I've already put a little bit of glue here, so I'm going to be careful with this. But this is my fabric glue liner, and I've added a little bit of interfacing to make it sturdy. And I'm just going to press this onto the zipper portion. And as I do that, I'm using these quilter's clips to just hold it in place until the glue dries. Now this method is super simple, but it can be a little bit trickier to keep tidy because if you get glue in your zipper's not going to run quite as nicely, and if you miss a spot, it's going to come undone. So it's not as precise as hand stitching, but it's definitely simple. So what I'm doing is exactly the same process as before, where I'm just lining up my zipper, and then I'm just clipping it here with these quilter's clips to keep it in place until the glue dries. And when I get to the edge, I actually am going to put a little extra glue right here to make sure the zipper stops there. And then I'm going to glue down the other side and let it dry. Okay, so before I wrap up this video, I wanted to show you this clutch, which is the fold over version of the one we've been working on. And this version does not need a zipper because it folds over and ties. So I wanted to show you how I did the liner without adding the zipper. So first of all, I measured it the same way, added an extra inch for the seams up the sides, and then instead of adding the zipper, I just folded this over and then hemmed it. So I just did a seam right along here, and you can do that with fabric glue as well instead of sewing. And then I tuck this in here all the way down, and then I'm going to stitch it in like this so that it's got a nice lining inside, but no zipper. Now, if you want to add some structure to this, you can also do the interfacing again. I had this measured for about 7 inches, so when you fold over, it's nice and sturdy on the bottom half only. So then what I'm going to do is just put this on the bottom half, and then I'm going to iron it right in the center of this lining before I stitch it in. So I'm going to do this on the front and on the back side of this. That's a nice finishing option for this fold over version of this clutch. Okay, so I just wanted to wrap up this video by showing you the clutches. Here is the mini version that I did with the glue. As you can see, it turned out pretty well. I did get a little bit of glue stuck in my zipper, so it doesn't slide as smoothly as this one. This is the sewn version, and they both have the interfacing inside. If I were to do this again, I thought the glue was really easy, but I prefer the precision of hand stitching this right where I wanted it. So if I were to do it again, I would glue again, but I would hand stitch the whole pouch inside. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and you can find the free crochet pattern for these clutches at craftingforweeks.com.